Relax in the coaching lounge and engage with compelling, motivational speakers. Be prepared to transform your inner world, to shape your outer world through empowering discussions. Tune into the Coaching Lounge now.
You're tuned in to another episode of the Coaching Lounge with your host, Rebecca Gordon, lead life coach at satellitelifecoaching.com. Listen to interviews with creative thinkers, motivational speakers, models of success, and key people of influence. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.
Here's your host, Rebecca Gordon.
My very special guest today is the award-winning author and design psychology coach, Sherry Burton-Ways. Sherry has been quoted in Forbes.com, Essence Magazine, and Organic Life Magazine, to name just a few media outlets. In 2004, Sherry started her practice to help her clientele shift the energy in their spaces. Her mission is to use her creative gifts to inspire and educate people and organisations to create peaceful and productive interior environments. Sherry, it's a pleasure to have you on the Coaching Lounge podcast again. You were last on the show in 2015, actually, and the show at that time was called Is Your Environment Toxic? Here's What to Do About It. It's a pleasure to have you here again. How have you been?
I have been wonderful, and it's such a pleasure to talk to you again because I really enjoyed that interview back in 2015. So I am so excited to be with you again.
Thank you. It was fantastic and lots of energy around that particular interview. And 2 years down the line, there have been some transformations, further transformations on your side of things, on my side of things. So actually, I've moved to a new home. Moved, from one city to the next. Downsized, but a very nice environment here that I'm sure from this show I can get some information, some strategies and some support and guidance on how to further enhance this space here. So I'm really excited first to delve into the show, Sherry.
Likewise.
Great, okay. So apart from your book, which we will talk about shortly, tell me one great thing that's happened in your world since we last spoke 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness, what has happened? Oh, wow. Well, I have begun to get more clarity in the work that I'm doing, and I have been able to secure quite a bit of speaking engagements, and a lot of the following has increased and grown. I'm meeting people who have been following me for several years. And it's just an exciting time. Things are just really blossoming. And I think within myself, I'm getting so much more clearer on my mission and what my audience needs. And I don't know. It's just like, especially right now, it's just some really interesting things going on. And I'm holding back from sharing a lot of things because I'm waiting for some things to transpire. But it's an exciting time, and I'm growing and becoming more interested in working with energy and speaking about it and helping people create some awesome spaces for themselves. So that's all I can say at this point. But I've had a chance to travel as well to Mexico and recently the Caribbean before the devastating hurricanes that have come through there. But it's been a wild ride. That's all I can say.
Interesting. Well, very exciting, fascinating, and intriguing are the words that come to mind.
Yes.
Yes. Quite sad news about the devastation with the hurricane, or hurricanes, I should say, in the Caribbean. Where did you go before that hit? Whereabouts did you go?
I was in the Cayman Islands, and I was in Key West, and a couple other places, Cozumel, down there in Mexico. So it was beautiful.
Yes. And was
experience.
Was that to do with your work?
No, it was just some R&R time, rest and relaxation, and self care. So I was just really fortunate to have the opportunity to get away, and I will be traveling soon more for business. But I was really happy over the Christmas holiday in December to get away to Cancun, Mexico, and then this past summer was on a Caribbean cruise and had a chance to go and see some places and see the Mayan ruins and all of that. So it was exciting.
Yeah. And I'm imagining that there was some energy for inspiration for your interior design work.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm always inspired by my travels when I do my work, and I encourage people to take their favorite vacation places and create that in some way in their homes, just to bring them alive and create positive energy for themselves. So, that's always a part of what I do.
Excellent. Okay. So, following you on Instagram, and I love your Instagram posts, very inspirational. Can you just tell us your Instagram handle, please?
Yes, it is Design Feng Shui. Oh, I'm sorry. I get it mixed up. That's my Twitter handle. Interior Environment Coach. So it's Interior Environment Coach, but it is Interior Environment Coach.
Fantastic.
And that's basically describes who I am. I'm not just an interior designer, but I consider myself a coach as well, because I am certified as a design psychology coach and certified as an interior environment coach as well.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So you work with clients, with individuals, I think we touched on this before, who bring you in to help them to design the space that's aligned to them where they are at that time in their life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Now, your Instagram page is the word I would use is there such a word? Revitalizing. Yes. It revitalizes me.
I think that's wonderful that you love it, because I'm kind of an eclectic person. On my Instagram page, I don't subscribe to a set rule. Some Instagrammers are very, very tight with their postings, and everything is routine. For me, it's what I feel and what I feel like I want to share with the world, and what I feel might help someone else, as well as information about what's happening with me. And a lot of people say they feel very inspired by that, so I'm grateful.
Yes.
Very grateful for that.
Well, that's okay, because what it does, it gives another dimension to possibilities for creating a really, really nice space in the home. And, sometimes we can be one-dimensional. So it's just nice to see from your expert eye, some of the things that would inspire you, that you can help others to be inspired by. So that's brilliant. Yeah, really nice page. I would encourage our listeners to go and check it out. Okay.
Thank you.
And you recently had a meet and greet book signing at the Pathways Natural Living Expo at Falls Church in Virginia. Yeah. What was the highlight of that event for you?
Well, the thing that I was really honored about, and what the universe continues to bring my way, is people, circumstances, and organizations that help, that give me the platform to be able to speak from experience and talk about how we can create interiors to inspire ourselves and to inspire our lives. So what happened in that situation is that there is a longtime follower who happens to be a real estate agent who was also at that particular event, invited me to share a booth with her. And I did. And from that, I walked into that with no expectations, And then, I completely sold out of my books, and people were asking me questions and going through periods of transition, which we'll talk about in a minute, that inspired me to write that book. And it just ended up being a bigger experience than what I expected, and I just love it when spontaneity and the universe collide together and create these opportunities. And I'm so thankful for my friend Suzanne, who has a group called The Journey to Your Soul's Home, she's a realtor, and she comes at this kind of work from a realtor's point of view, and I come from it from the interior design point of view. And we decided after that event, since it was so successful for both of us, that we will, collaborate again. So that particular event was a natural living expo, which is very holistic, spiritual businesses and institutions and organizations coming together for a expo of sharing their wares and products and services. So it was a very, very successful event. So thank you for asking about it.
No, you're welcome. Okay. And just for clarity for our UK audience here, is that realtor is what we call an estate agent. Just for clarity, yes, wow. yes. Like the elevator and stairs, different.
Yeah.
Yes. So a realtor is the estate agent. Okay. No, that sounds awesome. Fantastic. Now, the interview today is actually going to focus on your new book, which is called Landing on Your Feet and Putting Down Roots. What a fabulous title. And
thank you.
Yes, I was actually mesmerised by the introduction to that book. So, Cheri, what was the inspiration for the book and for the title?
Yes, and just for your listeners to know, when we talked the last time 2 years ago, we talked about my first book, Feel Good Spaces, Decorating for Your Body, Mind, and Spirit.
Right.
And this was an unexpected follow-up for that. I was going to follow up that first book with a completely different book, and this book came to me about 2 years ago, and I was in the middle of divorce and separation and all that that comes with it, and moving from place to place and trying to figure out how I can land on my feet, so to speak, and put some roots down and feel secure in that journey. And through that, in the introduction of the book, it talks about what I went through a little bit. Of course, not every detail is listed in there, but just an overview to give people an idea of what it's like to be suddenly uprooted when you suddenly have to make a decision for yourself. And, I wasn't necessarily 100% prepared, but I knew that I couldn't continue to live the way I was living at that time. So as everything else that happens in my life, there's resources and things that come to you to help you through that. And as a result of that, I looked at my interior environment, having to move from a home to a one-bedroom apartment to an efficiency apartment that I talk about in the book. Or I guess it would be a small, very small flat.
Okay, it might be a bed-sit here, bed-sit.
Yeah. And downsizing my life and feeling, insecure after 16 years of marriage, where you felt secure. It was a really hard lessons I had to learn, but I found in that experience that where I lived, I could create grounding for myself by surrounding myself with things that I love and various rituals and, practicing gratitude for shelter wherever I went. And it was a really great experience, and I'm glad that I went through that. And as a result of that, I decided, to share with the public, this is what happened to me since Feel Good Spaces, and I want to share this with you because there's a lot of folks out there who are not feeling grounded when there's a sudden upheaval or major transition that happens in their lives, and that, along with meditation, therapy, coaching, and all those great things, we can find solace and security in our shelter and with the things that we have around us. So I came up with these 21 rituals that I use, and I use rituals loosely from the standpoint of thinking about things that we do every day as a ritual, as a sacredness ceremony to begin and live our lives in such a way that makes us feel good about ourselves, and using the four walls that we live in as a resource for our grounding and our healing, so to speak.
That's great. Okay, because we're going to touch on some of the rituals in a little bit more depth. If I can go back to the time of transition with your breakup, and I love what you've said there. It was a time to look at how we can get solace and security in our shelter in such a situation. Now, there might be someone listening to this who's actually gone through a breakup, a separation, or a divorce. Perhaps might actually be remaining in the home or the environment, where there are a lot of memories that are held in that physical space that was once shared with another person. It's not easy to let go of attachments when you've got all these things around. You might go out and buy a settee together, or buy the furnishings together. Where there's physical or energetic attachments, how would you say that someone can prepare themselves to move on?
That's interesting. I'm so glad that you asked that question, because that's the first time I've been asked that question. Okay. I think that with any situation, there's this piece of feng shui that I talk about, which is, surround yourself with things that you love and rid yourself of things that no longer serve you. And that's kind of where we are with things of the past. If something that you hold on to or keep from the past brings you joy, I think you should keep it. Things that from the past that you have that brings you pain, I think that's a qualifier, in my opinion, for maybe passing it on to someone else who may use it. Now, if you're not in a position to do that, say financially, such as furniture and things like that, dress it up, reupholster it, place new pillows on it, maybe rearrange. There's a ritual in the book that talks about rearranging your furniture. Put it in a different way, switch out some artwork, paint the room, do something energetically different to create a different kind of energy with those pieces in there. Fantastic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a great response.
Reaccessorize those things. Right. And if it's a painting or a piece of artwork, put a new frame on it, or, what have you. There's ways that you can kind of recycle or upcycle, so to speak, or change the energy about something that you've had in the past to make it your own, to bring a different kind of energy to it.
Yes, and I think that's it, isn't it? Bringing a different kind of energy. Because, you said that in your relationship it was 16 years, and after you split up, with mine it was similar, into double figures. And you can get so immersed in your life being entwined with someone else that actually, in your physical space as well, it's a case of going through, well, actually, what do I like? You know, I never did like that sofa.
And that's, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Rebecca, because in my situation, I let him have everything, pretty much all the furniture and stuff, because I do this work, I didn't want to bring that energy into a new space. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to be able to buy new furniture and things like that. And I understand a lot of people can't do that. Yeah. But I did not want the energy, because I realized through this process that I had a different design style than he did.
Right.
I liked certain things differently than he did, and I didn't even realize it, because you know, when you're in a situation where you are in a relationship that long, you kind of, or at least for me, I kind of lost who I was.
Yes,
you know?
I've heard many women actually say that, because I've heard quite a lot of women.
Oh, yeah. And then it's like, they bounce back pretty quickly, but you have to sit back and spend some years really studying and figuring out who you really are and what you really are. And that through this process and understanding my design style and what I liked and what I didn't like, that was just an amazing experience, and that's all.
Yeah. So it's like a whole rediscovery of the self-discovery. And that links into a quote that is in either on your webpage or in your book, and I'm going to read this quote here now. Linked to what we've just said about rediscovery of your own energetic spaces. You say, Cheri, I deeply believe that our spaces can become a conduit for tapping into our potential and allow us to live in full expression of our true selves.
Yeah.
And that is an amazing way to think of, when you open your front door, you come into the living room, the bedroom, wherever you go, that it's actually an expression of your true self you see in each of the rooms. And I think that's really nice. It's a lovely quote.
Well, thank you so much, because that, in a nutshell, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about being about you and who you are, and not apologizing or making excuses for it or trying to, placate or serve someone else's interests. Is serving you. And I think that's what self-help, self-healing is all about.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, what we are going to do, Cheri, we're actually going to take a very short break. And then I'd like to let our listener know that when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the power of intention. We're going to do some practical stuff here. We're going to talk about the rituals and more about the book itself and what the reader can expect when they buy the book. So for the listener there, can you please grab yourself a pen and paper if you haven't got one already? You'll want to take notes or listen to this recording again, because there'll be lots of practical stuff that we'll be talking about after this short break.
We'll be right back after these short announcements from our sponsors.
Think big for a moment. If you could create your best life, how would this look? What if, in just 30 minutes, you had a plan of action to get closer to your dream? Make the impossible possible and claim your free session today. Visit www.satellitelifecoaching.com now.
If you're like me, you'll want to introduce your child to educational resources with images that represent their African worldview, nurtures their confidence, and advances their learning. What you want is a service that provides resources and worksheets to embrace your child's culture and empower their identity. If you are a parent or guardian who wants to homeschool or supplement the school experience, subscribe to Hika Online's low-cost, easy-to-access content that will keep your child entertained and wanting more. Help your young person celebrate their uniqueness and encourage them to succeed. Join hikaonline.co.uk today and get your educational resources with an African worldview.
My name is Rebecca Gordon. I'm the host of The Coaching Lounge and the coach at satellitelifecoaching.com. I am in the Coaching Lounge podcast with Sherry. I was just going to call you Dr. Sherry Burton-Ways because you're such an expert at what you do, Sherry. I'm in the Coaching Lounge with Cheri Burton-Ways, who is a design psychology coach and interior designer. Sherry, we've been talking about self-discovery as we move into creating an intentional space. Can you tell me more about the power of intention as we think about creating our space?
Oh, yes, that's one of my favorite areas of study. You know, I've been studying spirituality and metaphysics. I'm almost 50 now. Right. But I've been doing this stuff for almost 20 years as far as studying it. Yeah. And one of my first authors that I became very attracted to is the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, who had this awesome book that I read maybe 15 years ago. I'm not sure when it came out, but The Power of Intention. Mm-hmm. And that book just really started making me think about how do I look at intention and how do I work with that in my life. And, you know, it's funny right now I'm in that process again with my own business. But in any case, looking at, there is a ritual that talks about intention in my book. And it's talking about the intention of what it is, quite bluntly, what do we want our lives to look like? What is our soul alignment? What is it? What is our personal mission statement and our intention in our lives, and how do we want that to show up in our physical environments? You know, how can we use intention to be reinforced through our home environments? And I take the reader through a little bit about journaling and setting the intention of what they want for their spaces and understanding themselves more. Because I think, you know, when you go through the traditional design process, we talk about, you know, I'm designing a home or an office or what have you. What is your purpose? What is the primary purpose of the space? Is it for work? Is it for play? Is it to do crafts and hobbies and so forth? And once you understand what the purpose or intention is, you can begin to decorate and design around that intention, you know, because we want to support what the function is or what we want the space to do for us each and every day. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely, yeah. So like you say, if your intention is to do sewing and craft work, then actually you're going to be looking for particular pieces or particular where will the desk be for light and so forth. So that's the focus, yeah, the intention. Yeah, no, that does absolutely, yeah. Rather than just moving in, no thought at all, and just getting stuff in. You know,
correct.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I mean, it's about the mind-body connection, isn't it? And maybe it might be a good idea for me to ask this question now. With your book Landing on Your Feet and Putting Down Roots, when you went through your transition and this book came out as a result of that, how did each of the spaces you were in impact on your mental space? What differences did you notice in each space that you transitioned through?
Wow, you're good. You got some really great questions. Yeah. What was going on in my head? Okay, so the first space, and I talk about this space, the very first space I moved to when I left, I wanted to create or wanted the intention to be a haven, you know, something that, a place that was security and full of healing energy, because I was so frazzled at that point in time and so unsure of what my destiny was. And one of the first things I did was I brought in plants, and there's a ritual in the book called Adding Your Greens. And I felt, because we look at nature as grounding, right?
Yes.
Because we see the grass is green and the trees and leaves and the sky's blue and all those things, and we gravitate naturally to earth tones. And so that space was very much about that for me. And then if you read the introduction, there were some issues around that space, and I was fortunate. I took a loss and got out of that lease and found another place that was in walking distance from my employer at that time, and which was it was even smaller, I think, than the space I was in, but the first space. So that space, the second space that I talk about, was more, what did I want to feel there? I wanted to feel a little more grounded than the first space. I wanted to feel like, I wouldn't say it would be my forever space, but a space of growth and revitalization. So I painted the walls an earth tone color for grounding. I brought the same plants in. I had a chance to really decorate it, a little bit more like I wanted, with a lot of art pieces that I created myself, as well as bringing in a lot of the things that I had before. And as a result of that, it really blossomed my life, blossomed who I was. It was a lot of meditation that went on there, a lot of reading that went on there, because the first 4 or 5 months that I left my beautiful home, I didn't even have a television, so I had a lot more time to read and meditate and think and so forth. And it's amazing what you'd be willing to sacrifice. But the feeling that I had, the feeling that I wanted for each of those spaces was, safety, security, grounding. I wanted to, get some stability.
Yes.
Because after 16 years of thinking I was stable, or living in a false sense of security, I wanted that back in my life. And it's, that all happened back in 2014. Now we're at 2017, and I'm finally beginning to get that pathway back, getting that adrenaline back, because I felt lost. But as a result of the things that I did through those rituals, it helped me regain the strength and energy to get where I am now.
Okay, so
and I'm in much bigger space now.
In a bigger space now. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So actually you've answered the question I have here, which was, I will read it out because I wrote it down just before we came into this interview. And the question was, why is it important for our own self-help and well-being to incorporate rituals in our lives? But from just hearing you share your experience of your journey, over that time, it's about keeping you grounded, stable, secure.
Mm-hmm.
That's what rituals do, yeah?
Yes, because even before I left the situation I was in, I was doing it all along. Okay. I had to think about it, and I'm like, wow, I was doing meditation, I was doing ritualistic practices to keep myself grounded in a situation that I thought I was supposed to have been grounded in.
Right.
Okay? And then now I can practice it anytime I want and not be offending anyone or confusing anybody about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And take those things to a larger level. Okay. There's a lot of things I've learned since that time that I never used before. For example, essential oils.
Right. Yeah.
I never even used. I used incense and candles for aromatherapy. But I knew nothing about essential oils, and I started studying that and how that impacts the environment. Things like that. So it's all these things you start learning about and becoming exposed to when you're in a situation that.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, if you are living in an environment by yourself, and this is just something I'm thinking about here, is that we are at liberty to introduce some new things to support our, harmonious space. But if you share it with someone, with a partner or family members or what have you, it is very important to find somewhere in the house, in the environment, the flat or whatever, where you can have your own space to do these things, because it is about living in your potential wherever you are at. If you can try and do that as much as possible, then that's beneficial to your mental well-being.
Correct. And one of the things that I often forget about in talking about this book is that within the rituals that I discuss, there are some personal stories of other people who have gone through tremendous transition. I have about 5 case studies where people contributed stories firsthand about their experiences living in various places and how they found grounding even in shared situations that people can pull from. And some of them are personal coaches, health coaches, different types of entrepreneurs, people who have lived in foster care for many years and had to keep moving and so forth. So there's a lot of inspiring stories, particularly of women. This is kind of a woman-focused book, but a lot of men at that Natural Living Expo, for example, were really interested in this as well. Have found it inspirational for them, but I invite you, in addition to the 21 rituals, to read these personal stories, because some of them are very inspirational, and there's some really cool tools that they share about living in situations with other people that they may not have actually control over.
Yes, and that's that dimension to the book as well, apart from the rituals, to just hear other people's experiences is going to be very beneficial. So that's in the book Landing on Your Feet and Putting Down Roots by Sherry Burton-Ways, which is available where, Sherry?
Okay, people can get it from a couple different sources. I'm going to first start with my website. It's Sherry, Sherry, Burton, Burton, Ways, WAYS.com. If you go to that website and click on New Book, you can order it directly from me, and I can sign it for you and ship it out to you. You can also get it on Amazon.com. Also, Friesen Press, which is the publisher of my book. That's I think it's EISSEN Press, PRESS.com. Look up my name on there. You can order it there too. They're out of the British Columbia. So those are the main areas that you can pick this book up.
So we're going to have another very quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to talk about one of the rituals, well, 2 of the rituals actually, Sherry, and some other questions about the spaces and how to set up spaces in particular ways. Okay, so we'll be back on the other side.
Usually, we struggle through life alone, with outdated beliefs and self-sabotaging actions that bring the same results. How different would it be if you had a personal success coach who helped you make the shift and create a plan for happiness? You will fearlessly align your values, achieve important goals, and reframe your perspective when you have coaching with me. Email Rebecca at info@satellitelifecoaching.com. Book your free discovery session and change your life.
Thank you for staying tuned to the Coaching Lounge podcast. I'm Rebecca Gordon and I'm joined by Sherry Burton-Ways. Sherry, it is that if perhaps it might be true to say if you did not have the experience of that life change a couple of years ago, you may not have written this book in the way that it's been written. Is that true to say?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So everything happens for a reason, for a purpose. There's a bigger picture. Okay.
Right.
And I love the questions you raised in the particular ritual, which is the interior ritual tip. So I'm just going to read some of the questions in your book for the interior ritual tip. What do I want my home to say about my goals for good health? And another question, what ways can I get better organized to create interior abundance for my life transition? Those are deep questions, aren't they? Yeah. So when you've asked that question to some of your clients, what's come forward for them?
You're so good. Can you ask the first one again?
Yeah. What do I want my home to say about my goals for good health?
Yes. Okay. Well, there's a lot of different things that can be assessed when you create an environment for yourself to increase healthy habits. Okay. And the first is a space for. And I'm not talking about physical health as well as mental health. I'm talking about both.
Okay.
Of course, a sacred space for meditation, prayer, those kinds of things. To kind of create in yourself, if you want to have a better grounding mentally, create a space in which that's going to help you exercise that and increase that for yourself. If we're talking about physical health, we're talking about setting up or having space for, healthy cooking and eating, right?
Right.
And entertaining. So one of the things that I didn't mention in the book that I'll mention now is when I moved into my second space, it did not offer me, well, actually, both of those spaces did not necessarily offer me an opportunity to create healthy meals because they were kitchenettes or, small, basic spaces. Now I'm in a situation where I can cook full, healthy meals. In those other situations, I had to eat out a lot. Even though we can pick and choose where we eat and make sure that we go to organic places and, vegetarian restaurants and what have you, it's nothing like being able to prepare something at home. So I point to meal preparation rituals and other things in my book that talk about how to create healthy habits. And one of the things that I really espouse upon is if you're fortunate enough to be someplace where you can do something about your kitchen area, is making sure that you have an oven where you can steam fresh vegetables, an area, a facility where you can compost, having a water filter to be able to drink clean, fresh water. Those are basic things. Then, if you're fortunate enough to have a space where you can have a home gym, set that up, or a yoga studio, those kinds of things. So even if it's a corner for a yoga, you can just roll out your yoga mat in the corner of your living room and put in a CD or YouTube or something and watch a yoga routine, or if you have your own personal yoga routine.
Because
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to check in with you actually, because when somebody sets the intention and they're really serious about creating a harmonizing space, one of the things that they might think is actually, wow, I've got a mammoth task on my hands, or the process might be too costly. So they might think it might take a lot of effort or a lot of, physical effort or financial effort. What would you say to someone who's got that way of thinking?
Well, just like if you have a TV and just a blank space in a corner, you can create a yoga section.
Yeah.
If you don't have the money to buy fancy equipment to steam and all those kinds of vegetables, there's ways you can boil vegetables or bake things, look at recipe books and use what you have. I don't have a fancy kitchen right now. So I just purchased a cookbook that from a restaurant in upstate New York, and that traditionally cooked healthy meals, and that's what I do with what I have. Yeah. If I don't have space in my home to do massive aerobic exercise, maybe I might choose to live or have access to an area that has a nice bike trail or a hiker bike trail. Just things like that, or a place that has a gym in it. Right. If it's an apartment or a flat that has a lot of different uses and they happen to have a fitness center, in there.
Yeah, so it's like thinking what's possible. What can I do with this space? Yes. So how is this book different from your first feel-good spaces?
As far as this book, you said?
Yeah, because you've got landing on your feet and putting down roots. How is this book different from the first book, which is Feel Good Spaces?
Okay, great question again. Right. Feel Good Spaces, Decorating Your Home for the Body, Mind, and Spirit, is helping readers understand that decorating and design does not have to be a purely aesthetic activity based on design magazines, design TV shows, and all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. It's getting your mindset away from what you should or should not do, but it's more about a feeling. Yeah. Danielle Laporte is one of my favorite authors. She's got this whole feeling thing, with her books and so forth. So it's just taking the feeling and your intuition into decorating your home for you and not for your neighbors.
Right, okay.
This book, Landing on Your Feet, Putting Down Roots, is about, major transition, divorce, separation, death in the family, whatever the change is, good or bad, there's a certain amount of stress that goes through you as you're experiencing those things. And you need grounding just to get through the day sometimes. And it's about using a temporary space or maybe your forever home as a grounding tool to move you through those times, to help you transform to the person that you want to be and to move you from hurt to healing. So that's more what this book is about.
That's very nice, isn't it? Move from hurt to healing. That's nice, yes. Okay, so I'm a Gemini, which you are too, and I'm actually known in my family for regularly rearranging the furniture. So, in your opinion, because I think it's important to arrange the furniture from time to time, in your opinion, what do you think makes that important to do?
Well, first of all, and I'm speaking as a Gemini as well,
right.
I like change. I don't like to be bored with the same thing over and over. I think when you keep things the same way, the same position, it just stagnates energy in a space, and for me, and in my opinion. And I think, and I learned this a lot when I started staging homes for sale for, the real estate agencies here in the States. And once I started moving furniture around and taking furniture from other rooms and moving it to another room and that kind of thing, it just changed the energy of the space. Okay. And I noticed within days, maybe within hours, that property would sell. Why is that? So you take that same energy into your own home and say, I've got this chair over here in the spare room. Why don't I just move this into the living room? Right. Yeah. Why don't I move that sofa instead of in front of that window? Why don't we move it to a solid wall? Why don't we move this way? Why don't we make a divider here and kind of create a different kind of feel in this space? Why don't we, the possibilities are endless. It just starts changing the energy, and it just kind of keeps your mind focused on something new.
Right, yes.
Yes. It's all about the mind too. Instead of stagnating your mind to what was, it's about what are the possibilities.
That's right, yeah. No, that's good. Okay. So, touching again on what you've said there, actually, when someone's looking for a new house or a new apartment, what should they pay attention to as they visit the space and walk through the rooms?
Well, I think before they even do that, you need to go back to that intention that we talked about. Okay. Start listing those things that you want to change about your life. I think, and also through that, create your own personal mission statement for the future. And it doesn't have to be about your business. It's just about you and who you are as an individual and what you want to show up as, right?
Yeah.
And once you pull all of that together, start really thinking about, what do I want my ideal space to have to support those things? We talked about health earlier. What does that space have to have, or what does it not have that I have access to? Yeah. If it's a small 300 square foot space with a kitchenette, okay, all right, we can work with that. Maybe that's all I can afford. But is it near a park? Is it near healthy restaurants? Is it, you just start thinking in those terms. Yeah. And then when you start look at the space in and of itself. I start asking questions. Well, why is the space vacant? Who was here before? Why did they leave? Now, you may or may not be able to always get answers to those questions, but a lot of times you can. Did they leave because of an unfortunate incident? Or did they leave for higher advancement? Say they had to move for a job promotion. Right. That's a place you want to be, right? Yeah, because it's a place that might have good predecessor chi, as we call it in feng shui. Understanding the energy of the people who were there prior. Did they leave because there was a death in the family, or did someone die there? So you want to kind of think about some of that stuff,
Okay. And actually, in your book, is there a ritual to cleanse space?
Yes. There are rituals that talk about various aspects, like the essential oils one.
Okay.
That touches on it. Using crystals, energy touches on it. You have the ritual of feng shui itself that touches on it. So there's several ones in there. My first book talks more about the space clearing. This book is other tools you can use to get you there as well.
Okay. And Sherry, which is your favorite ritual?
Wow. Probably, I guess, the essential oils one.
Okay.
I am just so into, I really started studying this, how aromas can affect us. And I would have to say that's my favorite.
Right. Great. Okay. So, we're coming down towards the end of the interview now, Cheri. However, before you depart us, I do need to ask you some quick-fire questions. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Great, okay. And then after the questions, we will get your contact details again. Okay, quick-fire questions. Now, you have mentioned this already, but I'm going to ask it again. So, what's number one in your self-care routine?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. What's number one in your self-care routine?
Number one is my mind, and that would be meditation.
Right, excellent, okay. What book are you currently reading or have last read?
I would say I always read several books, but I would say Happiness by Christy Ling.
Happiness by Christy Ling. Okay. What's one thing that you've got from that book so far?
Because of something that I struggle with sometimes is this whole happiness thing. Is defining happiness for myself.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. And hammer or nail? Hammer. Why?
I like that physical activity of building, rebuilding, and using a routine of just making it clear, banging.
Okay, I've got you. Okay. What does your soul say?
Contentment.
Contentment. Who inspires you?
Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yeah, she's great, isn't she? And what's next for you?
Building my empire.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Wow. It's been an amazing interview, Cheri. And just to remind our listener, where can they get your book from?
I'll just say SherryBurton-Ways.com.
Superb.
SherryBurton-Ways as in Sam.com.
Okay, and then they can order from your website and then get a signed copy directly from yourself.
Correct.
Great. Okay, so Cheri, what final words would you like to share with a listener about the best way to land on their feet and put down roots?
Well, the best way to do that is, number one, have faith in yourself.
Yep. And
faith in your creative abilities to create something special in your home that inspires you each and every day.
Excellent. Amazing. And no doubt we will have you back on again. You mentioned there's a lot of projects that are coming up for you. And, in a little short time from now, we'll come back again, have another interview, and then, catch up with you as to where your life has taken you, Cheri.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much.
But well, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your inspiration. It's always lovely to have you on the Coaching Lounge podcast. And I look forward to connecting again to, catch up with your further developments.
Thank you for tuning into the Coaching Lounge. Join us next time for more insightful interviews with inspiring guests. You can hear previous shows on SoundCloud by searching for Satellite Life Coaching. We're always interested to hear your feedback and topic suggestions, so don't hesitate to email us on info@satellitelifecoaching.com.